is not information. It's a boundary violation. For centuries, medicine looked at only one thing. Is the heart beating? Is there breath? If yes, alive? If not, dead. A human was declared dead by the heart. This definition, from Galen's concept of cardiopulmonary death, remained unchanged until the mid-20th century. The heart stops, breathing ceases. That is death. On December 3, 1967, at Groote Schuur Hospital in Cape Town, this definition didn't die in theory, but in practice. Louis Washkansky's chest was opened, his heart was removed, and for several minutes, there was nothing in his body that resembled life. A body without a heart, yet a human not officially considered dead. That day, Christian Barnard didn't just perform a transplant. He irreversibly punctured the definition of death. The new heart began to beat. The patient opened his eyes. He spoke. He read a newspaper. He lived only 18 days. Barnard said this: "The heart is not a sacred center, it's just a pump." And in that moment, we lost something. The oldest reference point we used to define what a human is. If the heart is just a part, then where does a human actually begin? In truth, it all started in 1954, when Dr. Joseph Murray performed the first successful kidney transplant between identical twins. The scientific world thought it was merely a surgical achievement. Kidneys could be replaced, livers could be supported, pancreases could be compensated. But the definition of death remained untouched, because even when these organs failed, the heart kept beating. The heart was different. When the heart stops, a blood flow to the brain is cut within 10 seconds. At 30 seconds, consciousness fades. At 3 minutes, neurons begin to die. At 5 minutes, the damage becomes irreversible. That's why the heart was considered the threshold of death. Barnard crossed that threshold. But this victory raised a new question. If the heart is just a pump, what happens when the pump fails? The man who pursued this question was Willem Johann Kolff, a doctor, an engineer, and someone tired of watching people die. He built metal discs, plastic valves, pressure-driven mechanical chambers. The heart was beating, but it wasn't listening. It didn't understand the body's needs. It only repeated. In 1982, a fully artificial heart designed by Dr. Robert Jarvik was implanted into the chest of Barney Clark. The monitors were fine. The rhythm was steady. The pressure was stable. But Clark was confined to bed. He lived for months in a hospital room. Later, his wife said, his heart was working, but his life felt like it had stopped.
Well, I tell them it's what they did. There's no alternative. They either die or they have it done.
That's when something became clear. The problem wasn't building a heart. The problem was making it compatible with being human. So fully artificial hearts were largely abandoned. Instead, support systems were developed. The heart wasn't removed, it was supported. The machine no longer replaced the heart, it merely took its load. The goal was no longer to extend life, but to give life back. Then it was the lungs' turn. Åke Senning and Viking Olav Björk. Blood was taken out of the body, oxygenated in a machine, and returned. With ECMO systems, breathing is no longer a reflex. The lungs fall silent. The machine speaks. At this point, a human no longer owns their own breath. Life follows the rhythm of algorithms. Seconds align with death. Then came the other organs: liver support systems, artificial pancreases, insulin pumps. The body's chemistry was no longer regulated by instincts, but by code. Retinal implants were built for the eyes. cochlear chips were developed for the ears. One patient said, "I can see things." But the world is no longer smooth because a machine doesn't speak the brain's language. It only translates. And in every translation, something is lost. In 1968, Harvard Medical School redefined death. A body with a beating heart, with breathing lungs, but an irreversibly stopped brain is not human. Brain death. This definition changed far more than death itself. In the 1950s, when neurosurgeon Wilder Penfield electrically stimulated the brain, patients recalled childhood memories, heard music, spoke of things they had forgotten. Penfield wrote this: "The brain is not an organ. It is the human being." Today, deep brain stimulators can stop Parkinson's disease, but the same technology does not bring back a personality. It does not repair consciousness. Replacing the heart is engineering. Replacing the brain is redefining what it means to be human. But the brain is the system itself. Humanity solved the body, disassembled it, optimized it. The heart stopped, so we installed a pump. The kidney failed, so we attached cables. The lungs shut down. The machine breathed. The human survived. But then we faced the brain. Because when the brain fails, there is no part to replace. At that point, the body functions, but the human may not be there. And very soon, when we copy the mind, when memories become data sets, when something speaks like us, laughs like us, we won't ask, "Is this alive?" We won't ask, "Is this human?" We'll ask this: "Can this replace us?" And when that day comes, death will not have been defeated. Only this will have happened: the human and the thing replacing it will have become indistinguishable. And in trying to save humanity, we will have quietly left behind. The final measure of what makes us human